Good day, everyone, and welcome to the People's Law School. My name is Kenneth Anderson, and I'm an attorney with the Public Guardian and Administrator's Office of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I'm joined today by Ms. Debra Hulsey of Lourdes Hospital.
Thank you, Kenneth. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Debbie. We're here to talk about the legal issues that you may have when you are a patient in a hospital and what families should prepare for in the circumstances that they deal with those circumstances. Deborah, exactly what is your job with Lourdes Hospital?
I work in the care management department. I'm a social worker, and what I do is try to identify any needs patients have when they're in the hospital and make sure they're able to make their decisions or someone's there to do that for them.
And how often does it occur that a legal issue comes up with one of your patients?
Unfortunately, it comes up more often than we want them to. When they first come into the hospital, they may be injured and unable to make their own decisions, and sometimes there's not a family member to also be there to help. So if it's a life and death situation, we go ahead and do what the patient needs. If not, we try to look into guardianship.
And guardianship, of course, is where you and I have been very familiar over the past several years.
That's correct, yes.
What normally does the hospital do when they feel there's a need for a guardian?
What we do is we try to talk to the physician to make sure that they're on the same page with us and the patient is in fact not able to have decisional capacity. And if that's the case, they'll write a letter up saying why the patient cannot, and then we contact your office, being the public guardian, and we try to go from there.
When those circumstances occur, one of the first issues we try to do is contact the family, of course.
Correct.
How many times is a patient presented without any reference to family?
Not very often, but every once in a while you will have a situation where you cannot contact family and it just is a very difficult situation. And then you usually give 24 hours to try to find them, and then if that time frame you cannot find somebody, then that's when we contact the office.
If our viewers were wondering about what decisions would have to be made for a member of their family presented at the hospital, what are some of the decisions the hospital looks to the family for a decision?
Usually if they're not able to make decisions and they need like tubes placed, things like that, decisions that need like DNR status, do not resuscitate orders, just what the hospital needs to be doing. We look for the family for decisions with that, but sometimes they have conflicts and they don't agree amongst each other, the family members. And at that point we sit down with them and have family conferences with them and see if we can come to a consensus. Sometimes they need to just hash it out, so to speak. But then, yeah, if not, then you need to get a power of attorney. But that is not easy to be done when the patient's not able to make decisions, so they need to go and get a guardianship themselves, the family members.
So many times the family becomes the guardian or the appropriate person.
That's correct, and they can do that. They can go to the county attorney's office and apply for that.
As well as any private attorney. Many different attorneys in Paducah furnish those services.
That's correct.
Now, on the other hand, having these documents pre-planned or in existence is much better than waiting to the last minute, isn't it?
Absolutely. Very encouraged to get a living will. When you come into the hospital, any hospital, they will ask you if you have a living will already. And if you do not, I encourage anybody to fill one out, 18 and up. You know, it's not ever too early to do that, to fill out a living will. And at Lourdes Hospital, you can come in, or any hospital, I'm sure, would be able to help you do that. We do ask for a donation if you're unable to pay, but we'd be glad to fill one out for you.
And of course, a living will, that's the document that tells your doctor or your hospital that there is a limit to medical treatment that I wish to keep me alive.
Exactly, and it also designates a healthcare surrogate or somebody that you trust, like a family member or significant other. It could be anybody you trust to make the decisions that you want made.
And of course, the document naming a healthcare surrogate, that's the person who makes those decisions when the patient's unable to.
That's correct. When you have no decisional capacity, that person will take on and do what you want them to do.
Okay. Now, many times when the hospital calls, we have circumstances where we know there's a living will or we know there's a medical surrogate, but we can't find them. So isn't it important for all of us to keep that little card in our wallet or on our person?
Absolutely. Always give it to your physician. Always give it to the hospital of choice that you have, and always give it to your healthcare surrogate.
Would you consider that the major problem that the hospital runs into in these issues are with emergency trauma care?
Exactly. When they come in, again, we have to go ahead and treat them. If it's a life and death situation, hopefully within 24 hours we can find somebody to make the decisions. If not, then that's when we look at public guardianship.
And of course, this is the very definition of accident or emergency, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay. How many cases do you feel the hospital has every month in which some type of legal issue or guardianship matter comes up?
It's very, probably about 2 or 3 times a month, I would say, that we had a problem getting hold of a family member. But usually they do come about and they come up, thank goodness. But every once in a while, I'd say about 10 or 15 times a year is when we have somebody come in that they don't have anybody that can make their decisions for them.
And that's when you're forced to go to the court system, either through our office, through the Cabinet for Families and Health Services, or the county attorney.
Exactly, and they can do that also through state social services.
Okay. What do you consider to be the most important preparation for an individual when they present themselves at the hospital?
Again, the living will is the most important thing. It doesn't take that long to fill out, maybe 5-10 minutes. A chaplain at a hospital, at our hospital in particular, at Lourdes Hospital, can help you fill that out. It doesn't take very long, and it stops a lot of frustrations later on when you don't have what's carried out, what you want to have carried out.
So designating the medical surrogate, in other words, having somebody that can make a final decision.
Correct.
That's
It's the most important.
That's what the hospital feels should be done more than anything else.
That's correct.
And I'm sure that keeps a lot of the family fights to a dull roar when you have children,
Exactly.
in-laws. There's always somebody with an opinion, and unfortunately, only your opinion matters.
That's true. And you want what's, with your own body, you want done what you want done with it and nothing else. So.
And I know recently the Bar Association has become very instrumental in making these medical surrogate powers and the living wills very detailed. You can basically put any conditions or any
That's
information
correct.
that you want, can't you?
That's correct. Anything you want. There is lines now on the ones that I have seen where you can put anything you want on there, like where to donate your body to and things like that also.
And of course, having somebody designated with that information at their fingertips
Correct.
creates much more peace of mind than otherwise, doesn't it?
Exactly. And when that document becomes important is when you have a terminal condition and you're unable to make decisions for yourself, and then they can go by that.
Now, I know several other cases that we get a year involve some of your mental health cases, which are
That's correct.
really unfortunate cases that we have to deal with.
Yes, it's very sad.
How do you handle those?
They'll come in, like for a good example, like a patient that has alcoholism as a diagnosis. It's very sad, and they may be going through things that they just can't at that moment make decisions for themselves. And then if we can't have families, sometimes families, they don't want to be involved with that patient. So what we do, again, is try to get public guardianship on that one as well.
Now, of course, your hospital is basically the regional mental health center. Any type of psychiatric or psychological disturbance involves law enforcement or any other social agency, the patient is presented at Lourdes exclusively, isn't it?
That's pretty much the case, yes.
So that is one of the circumstances that Lourdes Hospital handles above all others.
Yes, that's correct. They usually do come to our hospital for that service.
And do you go through about the same situation you do with a terminally ill or an accident patient?
I would think that would be the same situation. Yes, I do, because the doctor, again, will write a letter stating that they're unable to make the correct decisions, and then we would go from there.
Okay. And in most of those cases, the family has either abandoned the person or
Yes.
is just not interested in dealing with them.
Exactly, and that could always change. It doesn't matter, even on a living will, who you designate, you can always change that later on.
So families who have difficult situations, pre-planning is helpful on almost any circumstance, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Of all the circumstances in the hospital, do you feel that the medical details sometimes get lost in the legal ramifications? We've heard the Terry Schiavo case. Have you ever had one of those?
No, actually, I haven't had one of those, but yeah, I can see where that'd be very difficult.
Family squabbles and family conflicts.
And sometimes you can have the living will out to what you want, and sometimes the family will try to go against that anyway. And you have to do a lot of convincing and talking to the family to try to get them back on the page with the patient.
And that's why it's very important to designate that medical surrogate.
Exactly, and make sure that they will grant your wishes.
That person can make a decision and follow your instructions.
That's correct.
Okay. Between Lourdes and the other hospitals in the area, do you have a program set up anywhere for people to come? I know that Lourdes holds classes from time to time about these subjects, don't they?
Right, yes we do.
Is there anybody that we can contact at Lourdes to arrange?
I would say you just contact Lourdes at 270-444-2444 and call that and ask for a chaplain, and they'll be glad to talk to you about how to do that.
Okay, and of course, I'm sure most hospitals have the same circumstance. You could call your own personal
Yes, you
physician or
can.
hospital.
That's correct, and they should be able to tell you also where to go.
And of course, anyone with the Bar Association and any practicing attorney would be
Correct.
more than happy to sit and discuss that as part of an estate plan or an emergency plan.
Absolutely.
Okay. Deborah, one of the other issues that we want to talk about is sometimes it's necessary for guardianships in the treatment of small children, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. What type of circumstance have you faced or has the hospital faced when it comes to those difficult situations?
Personally, I have been lucky enough not to have to deal with that situation as of yet, but I know that becomes play at times. Usually the family in that situation will take care of their child 18 and under, but you will have a circumstance where the family will not want to deal with that necessarily, and then they can actually put them under Department of Families and Children and get someone from the state to take over that child's case.
That sometimes happens, especially in the event of what I call a multi-unit family,
Right.
a divorced family, a stepchild family, is that there may be those circumstances where the parents don't agree.
Correct, and they may have to get legal action for sure on that situation and try to figure out exactly what to do through the court system.
So one of the other documents with regard to small children would be a custody order or your divorce decree to determine which parent or which appropriate family member
Exactly.
is in fact. Now that, of course, when you're dealing with small children, it's heartrending anyway.
Yes, it is.
So that's one of the other issues where pre-planning and having your papers with you at all times.
Correct.
It seems like we're carrying a library with us in our purse and our car these days, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
But it does help, just like your insurance card, to carry all these things.
Exactly. It's very important. It's just as important as anything else.
Okay. What other things have you seen in the hospital where people have sudden legal issues and you think, golly, I wish I had an attorney to talk to right quick?
There's lots of issues that come up. I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but yes, there is always a need to call a lawyer. We have a hospital lawyer that we sometimes call and get advice from, just not knowing exactly what to do when families are bickering or not really wanting the same decision for their family member. It can become difficult.
So basically the hospital has their own legal staff on call to help them.
Exactly.
It can get complicated,
It
can't
can.
it? And when that happens, usually becomes long-term, expensive, and trying on your patients.
Exactly.
Okay. Between Lourdes Hospital, I know, and their mental health as well as the trauma center, the other thing that we face a great deal are the discharges to nursing homes.
That's correct.
And sometimes there's difficulty is that a patient who presents himself for treatment may be perfectly capable when he walks in, but not
Right.
quite so capable when he's ready to walk out.
Right, and he may not agree to be going, or she, to a nursing home, and that is difficult because you know this family, they're going to go home, they're not going to be able to fix themselves something to eat, and it's very dangerous, and they may not agree with us. Sometimes we have to let them go back home if they're oriented enough to do so, but if not, we contact usually your office if a family member is not willing to do so and try to find out. But the physician, again, has to write a letter saying why they think the patient's not capable of making those type of decisions any longer, or not safe decisions. And in that situation, we can get involvement with public guardianship.
And that's usually the time when you and I get to sit and argue with somebody
That's right.
who checked themselves into the hospital and wants to go home, especially
Correct.
a senior citizen who lives alone, and the doctor is not going to let them because he feels it would be a danger for them to be by himself.
That's right.
But sometimes people don't understand that we're only talking maybe about 4 to 6 weeks for those nursing home stays while they recover, aren't we?
Yes, we usually try to go in and tell the patient this is a very short time. Usually nursing homes now only want a patient for a very short time for reimbursement reasons. So we try to make sure we give the patient, they can leave anytime they want to. They don't have to stay there just because they signed themselves in. But yeah, we try to encourage them to do that just for a week or so, just to try it out to see what happens.
And of course, if we could convince them to sign themselves in, they can walk out anytime they want.
That's right. That's the best option for them.
On the other hand, if the court gets involved and I have to sign them in, or one of
Right.
our office members, then they can't leave till we say they can leave.
That's correct.
And that becomes almost a very personal prison, doesn't it?
Exactly. So they need to, if they can, go ahead and try to get those decisions pre-planned out, or try to do that so we don't have to go that route.
Okay. How many couples do you see where someone is presented for treatment and then you have to talk their spouse into saying, I can't let your husband or your wife go home with you because? That happens quite often too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's hard. Sometimes the spouse doesn't want to go up to their wife and say, or husband, and say, hey, you cannot come home. I cannot take care of you any longer. So I do a lot of that going into the room and trying to convince and things the patient they need to do that it's not safe either for their spouse.
And that's not something you can pre-plan.
That's correct.
That's something we have to make the decision at the hospital, isn't it?
That's correct.
And it's just something people have to be prepared to do, and a decision they have to be willing to accept is that, I'm sorry, I can't take you home now.
Exactly. You do a lot of encouragement with families. You know, you just try to find out what their comfort level is, and you go from there.
With the number of, as you said, nursing homes who are accepting these rehabilitative type plans,
Right.
Lourdes also has one of the best home health care and hospice centers in Western Kentucky,
Yes.
and this region actually. We've been very honored to work with them for some time. Explain something about what home health care and the difference between that and the hospice center.
Okay, well, the hospice is when a patient has a terminal condition and they go in, they're very supportive to the family and the patient as well, and they do more like alleviation of the pain factor and trying to help the family through the dying process. Now, home health, you have to be homebound. Like you can go out, maybe go to church once a week or something like that, but pretty much you're restricted to the home. They come in usually about 2 to 3 times a week. They can come out and give a patient a bath, or they can come out and like give fluids, IV fluids, and things like that.
So basically, Lourdes, with the attendant nursing centers and rehabilitative centers here in Western Kentucky, if you present yourself as a result of a serious incident, accident, illness, or whatever, they can treat you, release
Absolutely.
you for rehabilitation, have you placed at home as soon as possible,
Right.
provide home health care, assistance with nursing and medications and things,
Right.
and then even in extensive or terminal cases, provide comfort and alleviation at the end, can't they?
That's exactly correct.
It's wonderful how Lourdes Hospital has managed to do this and prepare all this to take care of us basically from the time we're born to the time we're ready to be laid
Yes.
aside.
We're proud to be able to do that.
Okay. One of the things that I don't get into very often, and because most private pay does, one of the major medical issues lately has been neonatal care and what I call endangered birth practice.
Right.
Lourdes does a lot of that as well, don't you?
A little bit of that, actually. We sometimes have to fly babies out to other hospitals, you know, like more like to the Nashville or St. Louis area. But yeah, we do a little bit of that also.
And that's another situation where pre-planning and can alleviate many legal issues as you get into it, isn't there?
Yes.
I know one of the issues is, choosing a hospital, especially Cosaires in Louisville is one of
Exactly.
our best, and being able to understand how we can get people up there. That's something that we have to have the documentation and all the legal work done in advance as well, isn't it?
Yeah, we have to make sure when that happens that we get very quick signatures and things giving us permission to do that and send to other areas.
And of course, I know some of the doctors have referred clients to our office when they know there's a troubled pregnancy coming.
That's correct.
And I'm sure that you offer, again, social services and assistance and counseling about those issues, knowing that there's going to be a difficult situation at the end.
Sure.
Okay. Deb, how long have you been at Lourdes in that?
Actually, I've been there 9 years now.
Okay. And what is the most gratifying part of your job?
I love to be able to go in and just talk to the patients and find out exactly what they want done, and being very comfortable with setting them up with what they need when they go home. They're a joy to work with. The elderly, I love to work with them mainly. It's my main focus on my floors.
And of course, that's one of the reasons why these legal issues about planning for nursing home rehabilitation, planning for home health care, even possibly planning for hospice
Right.
is one of the things that you enjoy talking to people because you've seen the aspects of not being prepared.
That's correct. And I also worked at a nursing home prior to working at the hospital, so that's been my main focus.
And what information or what advice would you give to anybody about what age should you start planning these things?
Actually, at age 18, when you become an adult, I know it's never too early to go ahead and plan for things like this. Right at birth, you need to think about your children and what you would do at certain situations with them as well. But immediately.
Sounds like a walking advertisement for the legal association.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. With the elderly, and do you have an age at which or condition that you would like to talk to individuals if they see this instant coming on? I know as we all grow older,
Right.
I'm about to pass one of those milestones. I'm not going to tell you which one, but we start looking at having more and more checkups, have heart checks, have
Exactly.
cancer checks. Is there just a point in time where you say every time you go to the doctor you need to check your paperwork?
I think it would be a good idea. Just like I say, when you're going to a doctor at all, just to go ahead and check with them and be on the same, just communicate with the doctor and make sure you have everything arranged.
Okay.
It's never too early.
It sounds like you're basically backing the Bar Association, is that your lawyer's consultation should be as important as your doctor's consultations.
Absolutely.
You can save a lot of money by being prepared.
Yes, in the long run, yes.
Okay. For people who are younger, of course, in the emergency and the trauma, accident type circumstance, you just wonder, what can you do other than keep your contact person or your emergency notification person on you or with you at all times? Is there anything else you can think of that the normal 25 to 45-year-old person can do to make sure he's taken care of or his medical needs will be met?
Again, just communicating with your doctor. Usually it doesn't come up until that situation happens. Hopefully a person will not withstand a car wreck or something like that. Hopefully there's some pre-planning before that should happen. That way the person that they designate as healthcare surrogate can make the decisions for them.
So having that card or having that information with you at all times
Yes.
is as important as your driver's license or
yeah.
your credit cards.
That's correct.
Okay? Anything else you can think of that you would like to see when your patients come to you? I wish I had that, or I wish I had talked to them about it.
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, I certainly enjoyed the time. The People's Law School is run basically by the McCracken County Bar Association. We try to cover a large number of subjects. We don't intend to give you specific legal advice because your case is individual, specific, and very detailed. But it is important to us, as well as all the medical providers, such as Debra Hulsey and Lourdes Hospital, that you have that prepared, that you be ready for the circumstances that you need to make in your life, and that you consult both your doctor, your lawyer, and other professionals that will help you throughout the circumstances. Debra, I've really enjoyed our time here. I think it's a very good viewpoint to hear how the legal situation at the medical practice level affects all of our patients and clients.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Well, we enjoy doing this and being here. We enjoy all the circumstances to provide, and of course the Office of Public Guardian, the Office of the County Attorney, and any private counsel in McCracken County or through Western Kentucky would be more than happy to discuss any details with these situations and these circumstances and your specific problems, your needs, and to plan for your situation. Debra, in a closing note, of all the circumstances that you have dealt with, what is the most rewarding circumstance that you believe that you have had?
The rewarding part is when you discharge a patient from the hospital and you know that they are going to get everything that they need, whether it be equipment or home health or whatever it is. It's rewarding when they look at you and say thank you for everything you've done.
And of course, both Lourdes Hospital and all the other hospitals throughout this area offer many of these services.
Absolutely.
Not only treatment, not only the emergency room, but also the home health care, the hospice care, the nursing systems, the placement systems, the social work, the counseling. Everything that a patient needs can be available through the hospital if they ask and do so in advance.
And if we can't do that, we can direct you to the right place to do that.
Okay. Well, what are some of the places you direct?
Actually, like we talked about already, home health, hospice, we just can direct them to any. We have a book of all kinds of things, mental health centers. We have a lot of branches that we branch out to.
With the mental health centers, of course, Four Rivers, your own Lourdes Behavioral Health Center. We also have the Rehabilitation Center, some of the physical therapy centers, just a wonderful plethora of available services that are in this area that would benefit all these people if they know they're available in advance.
Absolutely, and we'll be glad to answer questions.
So pre-planning and everything is ready to go. That is the issue, is to be ready and be prepared.
That's correct.
Okay. Again, my name is Kenneth Anderson. I am an attorney with the Office of Public Guardian. I'm here on behalf of the McCracken County Bar Association. I have enjoyed the opportunity to be of service and to be here. I hope you will take the time to listen to what the people in the field of medical practice tell you you should do in preparation for your circumstance. We've covered a lot of subjects and a lot of situations that perhaps you don't consider. But to recap what Debra has told us today, having your paperwork, your living will, your medical surrogate, designating somebody to make a decision, being prepared for the eventuality that even after a successful procedure at the medical center, you may not be entitled to go home right away. You may need some rehabilitation. You may need some recovery time. There are many issues that you have to address that will be horribly emotionally draining upon you and your family if you are not prepared to make those. And as Debbie said, there are these issues, these available resources both at Lourdes Hospital, at the other hospitals, at your law office, at your doctor's office, that will be able to prepare you for each and everything that you will face when you enter a medical center. It's amazing to me today how important it is for every facet in life, even appearance at a medical hospital, that your legal issues be resolved and in place first.
That's correct.
And of course, that your deal is, as a social worker, is helping people face those situations.
Exactly. It's the most important decision.
Okay. Debbie, on a last point, is the circumstances that I have enjoyed working with you and with Lourdes Hospital. If there was something that we could do for the people of McCracken County and the people of Western Kentucky, is there anything that the Bar Association or the court system that you feel, as a last word, what would you ask the people in McCracken County and in Western Kentucky to consider?
Just consider that that is another option. If you don't feel comfortable with making the decisions of your family member, that is available to do, and it's not a bad thing either. And you all also, I know, listen to the family members and kind of try to do what they want also.
So basically, the necessity of filing a court action for guardianship is not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing at all.
Okay, and of course, you work very closely with Dan Bowes and the people in the county attorney's office,
Right.
and he's been very instrumental in expanding
Absolutely.
this program to the public.
Absolutely, and they are wonderful about moving things along very fast.
Yes, I know Linda, Christy, Tina, the other girls in his office, Sharon, Rachel, they've made my job really easy because Dan has very carefully expanding his availability in these circumstances.
Right, and they work very fast.
Okay, but also a private attorney will work just as well, won't it?
Absolutely. Attorney
Okay.
of choice would be fine.
Okay. Do you arrange for those? Can you provide those?
No, I don't. I just, we don't do that at the hospital, but we do tell them, you could just look in the yellow pages and find an attorney that way.
But you're more than willing to have the attorney come to the hospital to help.
Absolutely.
Okay. I just, one last thought that I wish we'd covered earlier is, when you check into the hospital, as long as the patient is intelligently oriented to time and place, you can do this at the last minute, can't you?
Absolutely.
You can ask the hospital and they can arrange for somebody to come there to help you with that.
Yes.
Okay. That seems a terrible thing to end our program on, is last minute emergency system, when we've talked the entire period of time about being prepared in advance. But I guess now that we are down to our short numbers, that's what people face in emergency, is we've got to get it done right now.
Exactly. Some people just don't think about pre-planning. I've been guilty of that myself, but yes, I am planning.
Okay. Well, again, we hope we've covered everything that you thought was interesting in this. I really do appreciate Debra Hulsey and Lourdes Hospital with providing her in this time. We've appreciated everything that we have a chance to be here, and we hope you learned something from our story. Thank you very much. This is Kenneth Anderson. Good day.